Ever feel like marketing's trying to put you in a box? Like you're either, I don't know, a green smoothie person or a giant pickup truck person.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into whether those boxes are even real. We've got excerpts from How Brands Grow by marketing expert Byron Sharp.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
And let me tell you, get ready to rethink some assumptions.
It's pretty wild, actually. Um, the chapter, it dives into like decades of research, and the big takeaway is this. The customers of competing brands, way more alike than you'd think.
Okay, so like how alike are we talking here? Give me an example.
Okay, so picture this, right? It's 1959, and you've got these researchers studying Ford and Chevrolet owners.
Classic rivalry.
Exactly. So they're giving out personality tests, expecting to find like huge differences between these, sworn rivals, like, I don't know, the rugged individualist versus the suburban family.
Right, totally different images.
Exactly. But, when the results came in, total shocker.
What, they were all the same.
Basically, no major differences in their personalities.
Hold up, same personalities. What does that even mean for how we think about, like, targeting customers?
That is the
Yeah.
million-dollar question, right? And it's not just Ford versus Chevy. Turns out, similar studies across all sorts of products, cigarettes, computer games, kept showing the same thing. Competing brands, remarkably similar customers.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder if those carefully crafted brand identities are really doing what we think they're doing.
Right. Like, I'm picturing those luxury car commercials,
Yeah.
the ones that, with the, like, sweeping vistas and the impossibly cool drivers.
Nah.
They're selling a lifestyle, right? An attitude.
Totally.
But if we're being honest, doesn't everyone kind of secretly want to feel like that behind the wheel, regardless of what brand they're driving?
Exactly. And Sharp uses this great example from the UK car market back in the 90s. He compares buyers of Rover.
Rover.
Yeah, a brand known for its luxury models to those who went for the more practical and affordable Escort.
Okay, yeah, I see where you're going with this. Now, you'd think those would be two completely different customer profiles.
Totally different. Like we're talking champagne wishes and caviar dreams versus like sensible shoes and a budget spreadsheet.
Right. But here's the thing. When you look at the actual demographics, surprisingly similar.
Really?
Yeah. Household size, income levels, even down to like what newspapers they read.
Wait, hold on. Rover owners are reading the same tabloids as everyone else. That just shattered an entire stereotype for me.
Yeah.
So what is it then about these different brands that influences people's choices?
It really often comes down to just practical needs, more than like deep-seated personality differences.
Okay.
Like larger families, for instance, they might need the space of a minivan, even if they secretly yearn for like a sporty little coupe.
Right. So it's less about like who we are and more about what our life actually needs at that moment.
Exactly. And this holds true even when we start thinking about something as personal as our values.
See, I was just thinking that, okay, maybe demographics are similar, but our like deeply held beliefs, they have to shape our brand choices, right? Like
Yeah.
the idea that someone who really values sustainability would gravitate towards brands that are known for being eco-friendly and ethical.
Right. Makes total sense.
Yeah.
But when researchers actually analyze data on car owners' values, even things like judging people by the car they drive,
Oh, come on, really?
yeah, it remained consistent across brands.
So that whole I'm too cool for this brand attitude that's just a front,
Yeah.
we're all more alike than we think.
It seems that way, yeah. And it challenges this idea that our brand loyalty is reflecting some like profound aspect of our identity.
Yeah, it's like those blind taste tests where people swear they can tell the difference between brands, but then they get it wrong.
Right.
Maybe we're just not as unique as we like to believe.
Maybe not.
Good.
And this leads to a really fascinating question. If brands did have such distinct customer bases, wouldn't like hyper-focused targeting be the key to success?
Oh, for sure. Just hone in on that perfect customer and market directly to them.
Exactly. But Sharp uses this great example to show why that's not always the case. He talks about Yorkie chocolate bars.
Yorkie bars. Okay.
Yeah. Which, if you remember, they ran that infamous "It's Not for Girls" campaign.
Talk about a bold marketing move. You'd think they were selling like, I don't know, monster trucks or something, not chocolate.
Right. But here's the thing. Despite, that whole hyper-masculine approach, Yorkie's customer base, pretty much a 50-50 split between men and women.
So even when a brand actively tries to exclude a certain group of people, it doesn't necessarily change who actually buys their product. It's like those demographics are more like fluid than we think or something?
Exactly. And this whole discussion, it got me thinking about all those product variations out there, different flavors, sizes, formulas. You assume those are designed to appeal to like specific groups of people, right?
Like Diet Cola. Okay, that's for the health-conscious folks. Or
Right.
the family-size bag of chips. That's got to be for, well, families, obviously.
Exactly. Except when you look at the data on those soda variations, from regular versus diet to bottle size, even like cola versus lemonade, guess what?
Hmm.
The demographics across all those variations are remarkably consistent.
Get out of here. So that whole niche product, niche audience idea, it might not hold as much water as we thought.
It's more nuanced than that, right? Yeah, you might see a slight skew in one demographic or another, but often it's not statistically significant enough to, like, base your whole marketing strategy around it.
So if we're not chasing after these like mythical, super specific customer profiles, what should we be focusing on?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. Sharp talks about this phenomenon. He calls it the my mum phenomenon, and it's something I think we can all relate to.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
Okay, so it's that tendency we all have, right? To view our own chosen brands more favorably, even though someone else who uses a different brand probably feels the exact same way about their pick.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. It's like my mom, she swears by this one laundry detergent. Like to her, nothing else even comes close. But to me, honestly, all laundry detergent is basically the same.
Exactly. And it highlights the power of like familiarity and just habit in shaping our preferences.
Mhm.
We gravitate towards what we know, what we use regularly. It's not necessarily about one brand being inherently better than another, but about those individual experiences that kind of create that sense of loyalty.
Okay, so we've busted some marketing myths,
Huh.
explored some like seriously fascinating data. But what does all of this actually mean for someone listening right now who's trying to, build their own brand or whatever?
Here's the empowering takeaway. If your customer base is actually more similar to your competitors than you might think, your potential pool of customers is way bigger than you realize.
It's like the marketing playing field just got a whole lot wider.
Yeah.
No more limiting yourself to these super narrow assumptions about who your, quote, ideal customer really is.
Exactly. The real challenge and the exciting part is understanding how to cut through all the noise out there and create a message that connects with a much wider audience.
So instead of trying to appeal to like a tiny little niche, you're aiming for messages and strategies that connect with like a broader range of human experiences, motivations, all that.
Precisely. And that's where things like creativity, strong storytelling, a deep understanding of what makes people tick, that's where all that becomes even more important.
It's like a whole new way of thinking about marketing. And honestly, it feels kind of liberating. Less about finding that needle in a haystack and more about just understanding that universal appeal of a great haystack.
Well said. Because ultimately, whether we're talking about cars, chocolate bars, or laundry detergent, we're all driven by those similar desires to
Yeah.
connect, to belong, to find products that, just make our lives a little bit better in some way.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the big takeaway here is this. Don't be afraid to think outside those marketing boxes. Your audience is probably way wider and more diverse than you realize, and that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Embrace the challenge, get creative, and remember, great marketing is about connecting with people, not stereotypes.
And on that note, we'll catch you next time for another deep dive into the world of ideas. Until then, keep those marketing minds open and those assumptions in check.